Last spring break was a week earlier than this spring break, so technically I've had this watch for just a couple days over a year. No, a month over. I've had this watch for, I had 2 months to save.
Let me see if it's recording now. Now on.
It's not run out of battery, but it does something that
Should be.
Extra battery. By the way, my wrist has been bothering me all day. It's itchy.
Oh, that's this puppet.
Okay, here we go. 23 seconds.
This is not.
Now, can you hear our voices?
Nothing here.
Hello. Hello, Claire.
Testing, testing.
It's like picking it up, but I can't hear it.
Maybe the volume control. Yeah. What did I say?
Okay.
Okay. How's that? You can hear us now?
Hello, Claire.
Yeah?
Hello, hello.
You can hear us?
No, but it did say that all volume will be recorded through the mics. So
Oh, you can still hear?
you just have to.
Damn it. Okay.
This is why people watch my Phiya.
And
Yes, we can hear us.
hello, hello.
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. Has it started?
Hello? Yes, testing. Hello? Screens.
Okay, please turn off. Close that door.
Well, okay, I'm watching for Joanne because we don't want to.
Okay. Looks like we're on. Right. So, first I just want to welcome everybody to my interview here with my brother, Norio. And I want to first let everybody know that I didn't twist his arm. I'm not trying to force him to do this. He's doing this completely voluntarily and very happily to do so. Isn't that right?
Oh, my arm, my arm. Yeah, I'm happy to share what's been happening with me and the journey
Okay, great.
that I'm on. And yeah, I think that there are people curious about it, especially those familiar with our parents
Yes.
and their work.
Right.
So yeah, I'm happy to share.
Great. Okay,
Whatever's going on. Yeah.
Yeah, so the format of this interview is I'm breaking it up into four parts, but they're all interconnected because it's all about you. The first part is specifically about your cancer diagnosis and what you've been doing about that and everything about that. The second part is about your life in general, your upbringing, your family, what it was like living with our parents and the siblings, and later, and you grew up relationships and your work and driving a semi-truck, etc. All of that. Then the third part is about the insights and your thought processes and the ideas and what you've discovered in your journey, as well as with your cancer diagnosis and the process that you're going through, what you've discovered about life in general, the ideas you've embraced and the ideas you've rejected, etc. Okay? Then the fourth part will open it up to questions and answers from the audience, if we can manage this. Now, I just want to say this is my first live broadcast, so I'm just...
All right. We're the beta test.
This is the first time I'm doing this, and I'm trying to still figuring things out as we go along.
Okay, that's all I do. Figure things out as I go along.
Great. So we can get right into it since we've got 2 hours, and I figured we'd cover 20 to 30 minutes. Also, we might take a break if you need to take a break. We can do that like an hour into the thing.
Okay, well, we'll see. I think I'll be fine.
Okay.
But,
great. So let
the audience might want to take a break, though.
Great. So let me just say, before I formally introduce ourselves, let me just say that since we are talking about a cancer issue, and we'll be talking about medical treatments and things like that, as well as alternative therapies and so on, that this is not, whatever you hear on this in this interview is not medical advice to be taken. This is only specific to your condition, and if anybody who is watching does have a serious medical condition, then we recommend that you seek out the appropriate professional healthcare professional for that. Just a slight disclaimer for everybody.
And
okay?
that's true for all of life.
Yes.
I'm making a disclaimer about anything I say, about anything.
Great. Okay, so let's begin. First let me introduce myself. For those who don't know me, I am your brother, Phiya, and my life I've been mostly immersed in helping my parents, which are Micho and Norio Kushi, who have been the leaders of the Macrobiotic movement for many years in their lifetime. And and you are my older brother, 5 years older.
Yeah.
Yes, my parents, as Norio's, as you're pointing out, wrote this book, The Cancer Prevention
Cancer Prevention Diet.
Among other books.
And yet, 4 of us, the oldest Kushis,
yes, that includes...
have been diagnosed with cancer.
Yes. So our father, our mother, and our sister, Lily, they all passed away due to complications with cancer. Now, speaking of the diagnosis with cancer, I just want to touch on this as this question that I had, because when I was organizing the promotion for this event, I initially wrote Norio has cancer, and was going to put that out there like that in those words, Norio has cancer.
Yeah.
And the reason for me for doing that is just because graphically it takes minimal space and it just conveys the point easily, and it's good to promote online and say something like that in a short, concise way. However, you insisted that it read Norio was diagnosed with cancer.
Yes,
and you were and it was very important to you that you change it. And I said, okay, And then I asked you why. Why is that important to you that it's not Norio has cancer, but Norio was diagnosed with cancer?
Yeah.
Why is that?
Well, because it's more accurate.
Okay.
You know, when people say they have cancer, it's not. That's actually not true. I was diagnosed by these medical professionals, by a doctor or doctors, and I was told I had this growth that I had on my leg was malignant, and it was cancer, and it's called Merkel cell carcinoma. Is a specific type of cancer that I was diagnosed with. So, but I don't look at it like I have it. So it's more accurate. I was diagnosed with cancer. I don't the way that life unfolds, and this. So you know, I understand dividing this into like the 4 sections. At the same time, that question touches on the key part of what life is.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And so.
Your view of life, your insight, your perspective of life.
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, I consider it the way life is, and of course, you can say it's my view. I mean, right. I'm not. That's truthful, and so.
Because I think most people, when a doctor tells them, you know, and the tests and all of that they discovered cancer and they have been diagnosed with cancer, we'll be fine with saying, "Oh, I have cancer." It's like,
oh yeah, and people
or like they have a cold. Oh, I have a cold, or I have a fever, or
yeah. And the other thing is that most people, or I shouldn't say most people because I don't know this, but my understanding is that people consider cancer as negative.
Okay. Yes.
And I don't look at it as negative or positive.
Okay.
I look at it just that is the diagnosis.
Okay.
You
okay.
know,
so we can get more into that, but first let's get some of the details of your cancer, like when we first noticed it, when it was diagnosed, and all of that. Okay.
Okay. To make a short story long, I first felt a lump behind my left knee, February 2021.
Okay.
And then, as the weeks went on, it continued to grow.
Okay.
And so by May, I knew it was something that needed attention. My body was clearly saying, "Hey, Nutty Norio, wake up! You know, there's something here going on." So at that point, because of the way it had grown, I thought it was. I knew the possibility that it could be malignant. So up to that point in my life, I never had health insurance, and I did turn 65 just not year before this occurred, and so I have Medicare now. Mm-hmm. It's the first time I've had, quote, health insurance, but of course it's not health insurance. It's really disease management, but it's called health insurance. It's a euphemism. Mm-hmm. So I joked when I got the Medicare. Well, now that we'll have, it'll be funny now. I need something. I need this disease management. Sure enough, a year later, this was Mr. Bump came along, mm-hmm. and so I was introduced to this disease management system.
So when you noticed it was growing, and then you decided, what was the first step you decided to do?
Well, the first thing I wanted to do was get it diagnosed by a doctor.
Okay.
Like a regular Western doctor.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And that was?
That was actually in May.
In May. Oh, okay. Not too long after.
Yeah, because it was growing quite rapidly.
Okay, in May. And then what happened?
Well, thought I could just walk into a hospital and just say, "Hi, I'd like to see a doctor. I got this lump on my leg." Well, it turns out that it's not quite so easy. First, I need a family doctor or something, a general. I don't know.
Practitioner.
Yeah, I don't know the correct term.
To recommend that you get this.
Yeah,
test.
so I'm supposed. So it took me a couple of weeks to find a doctor.
Right.
And then the doctor looked at it and diagnosed it and thought it might be a cyst or whatever. And then they scheduled me for a test, an ultrasound test, 2 weeks later. Then I had the ultrasound test. Then they scheduled me for MRI. So this is like 2 weeks later, and then 2 weeks later, and then they scheduled me for a PET scan, and then so I'm on the road also. I'm driving the truck, so I'm scheduling these different places depending on where I am in the country.
Right.
You know, so.
So you're going to different
ultrasound,
different hospitals in different
different
states.
places for these tests
see.
because I'm all over the country.
Okay.
And then finally it was diagnosed. Finally, then they said, okay, you need to see a doctor, oncologist, whatever. So I said, okay, well, I figure it would take I would need to take a few days off, and so but the general practitioner, it was like a month later. We're now in July.
Okay.
And a month later, so towards the end of August is when I was going to see someone in Asheville. Is the schedule. And so now, meanwhile, this Mr. Bump, I call it affectionately Mr. Bump now because it's this bump growing up the back of my leg. So Mr. Bumps continue to grow. So I said, well, a month isn't soon enough because I wanted to.
No.
At this point, I had originally wanted to know in May. Now it's already July. So I called up our brother Hal, Larry, Doctor.
Yes.
And I was in Washington State in Ellensburg, and I called him up and said, "Hey Hal, I've got this." I told him the story, and I told him that I think it's cancerous, this lump, and he said, "Okay, where are you?" And I said, "In Ellensburg, Washington." He said, "Okay, well, I can get you into Fred Hutchinson or UW Hospital tomorrow if you want."
Okay.
And I said, "Well, no, I'm on my way to St. Louis." And then he said, "Okay, well, I have oncologist friends in Washington University in St. Louis. They can see you." And I said, "Well, actually, if I have suspicion I'll be off a few days, so I'd like to go to Virginia, and I'll be close to Duke University, in Southern Virginia. How about Duke?" And he said, "Okay." And then he said, "Yeah, I know that I'm friends with the director there. I'll email her." And so
Great. Yeah.
next day I got a call from Duke. I'm driving, and I they asked, "Oh, when can you be here?" And I said, "Well, next Thursday," because I was driving across country. And they say, "Okay, how about 10 a.m. Thursday?" And I said, "Okay, that's perfect."
Okay.
And I saw the top surgeon on oncological, whatever, I don't know the correct terms, at Duke. And so finally I got the diagnosis, which I already knew anyway. So it's confirmed.
Okay.
So
let me ask you, when you first noticed the bump and it started to grow at a rapid pace, did you, you continued driving your truck and doing your work, but did you do consider any other changes to do in your life, like change your diet or change your...
Well, I did a little bit, not so much.
So we'll get into more what you were needing.
I mean, in August, in August I shifted.
Okay. Oh, once you got the diagnosis.
Once I got the diagnosis.
Uh-huh. So what did they prescribe then from
Well, they didn't prescribe anything regarding diet. They said I could eat anything I want.
Right. What did they prescribe for treatment?
Well, first they were looking at surgery,
Okay.
removing Mr. Bump, but they did a biopsy. They did it, and I had a PET scan, and the PET scan determined that the quote cancer cells or whatever were in the lymph system.
Okay.
Yeah, so
Was
so
that
the,
like a month later, or
it was 10 days later.
10 days later? Yeah.
And so they said, well, we're not going to do the operation because it's not going to get rid of
Right.
the cancer.
Right, because it's in your pelvic region. And
Yeah, it's in
Okay.
the lymph systems here in the. So they recommended immunotherapy.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
But as far as the diet, they didn't recommend anything. So, but what I did was I shifted back to the diet that we grew up in.
Okay. All right, yeah, well, let's talk about that. Let's talk about the diet. Let's talk about your, I mean, you were, up until that point, you were driving a semi-truck for how many years?
Well, I initially started in 1980.
1980.
But I did other things in between.
Uh-huh. And like for the year or 2 or 3, even 5 years before you noticed things, what was your life like on the road?
Oh, it's great. I love it. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So you were on the road how many days in the month?
I would say 25 days.
Oh, right.
20 out of the month.
Yeah. So 5 days you were resting somewhere.
Yeah, possibly.
Maybe here and there in between, like a day here, a day there.
Yeah.
Total 5 days. So.
Yeah, generally in a period of a year, I might be off like 3.5 weeks. You know, it's
3.5 weeks for a whole year. That's not a lot.
rest of the time I'd be driving.
Yeah, and like in a day, do you drive 8 hours a day? Do you set a limit, or do you drive how average on average?
Well, there's legal limits, and so sometimes I'll drive 11 hours. It's like the
11
maximum.
hours. Uh-huh.
And you know, for me, driving is like meditation.
Yeah. What is the legal limit?
11 hours.
11 hours. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So
I'll start in the morning, and I make a cup of coffee, and then I take off, and then I might drive full 11 hours straight.
when you actually eat, do you stop and do you go to a truck stop, or do you eat in the cab?
Yeah, I have a rice cooker in the cab and a stove. But I generally ate simple, easy to prepare noodles and things.
Like ramen, packaged ramen.
Yeah, from natural food stores.
Right, Koyo brand.
Yeah, Koyo brand, yeah.
Yeah, which was started by our friends.
Kagemori.
Yeah. Macrobiotic Friends, that company.
Yeah, in Montreal. So, but I also had a bag of snacks that I would keep
what kind
with
of
me.
snacks would you?
And they're mostly crackers and
what kind of crackers?
nuts, chestnuts and things.
Chestnuts.
Yeah, or things like that.
Wait, like when you say crackers, what kind of crackers?
Oh, just regular old, like saltines, goldfish.
Goldfish?
Yeah.
Ritz crackers? Or?
Yeah, Ritz sometimes, yeah.
So would you eat a lot of those, like just driving along? And
I wouldn't say I ate a lot, but they were readily available next to me if I wanted to munch.
Like, if I recall correctly, you get a box of saltines, either the small one or the larger one, and they're like 4 strips in there. So how often would you go through one of those?
Oh, I don't know. I mean, I would vary. I would have different ones.
Sure, yeah.
But yeah, it's just so once a day I might stop and actually have a meal, one or twice. You know, or I'll cook a pot of rice, and when I take if I take a break,
Okay.
I'll have the rice and some maybe fish or something with it.
Okay.
But like for myself, I could drive unless I had to stop for fuel or to use the bathroom or something. I'll just drive, like
Non-stop for like 4, 5, 6 hours.
11 hours.
11
I could
hours.
drive 11 hours without stopping, taking a break. Yeah.
Really?
Uh-huh.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah.
That's that is amazing. Yeah. So.
Yeah, because for me, driving is very relaxing.
Yeah.
You know, it's like.
Is that common among truck drivers to do that?
Not usually.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
It doesn't seem.
And for me, the way I look at it is I'm sitting there and I'm just sitting there watching the world go by.
Right. Sure. Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
just relax.
So, did you? I mean, because you're sitting there, do you do any like physical activity to balance that?
Yeah, I was a member of Gold's Gym.
Oh,
and then
okay.
there's Gold's Gyms all around the country.
Yes.
So I would take breaks sometimes, and during the break I would be able to go to these Gold's Gyms facilities.
And what would you drink? Coffee, tea,
Coffee, water, and then sometimes beer.
beer when you're finished driving.
Yeah, yeah. Usually, if I have a day off, then
Yeah, then you drink beer.
Yeah,
not in the truck.
right. Yeah.
But you drink. How do you take your coffee?
Oh, just black.
Black.
Nothing.
No sugar, nothing.
No, right.
And water.
Yeah.
Just coffee, water, and then beer on
Yeah.
off days. Okay. All right. Interesting. All right. So let's see. What else? So then you said, yes, the fish. Where do you get fish?
Well, I would get canned fish.
Oh,
like,
okay, canned
you know,
fish. Yeah.
What do you call it?
Sardines or mackerel,
the-
tuna,
What is the wild something or another?
wild caught.
Well, there's a brand that I used to get from the natural foods
Right.
supermarket.
Wild Planet. Okay.
Yeah, Wild
thanks.
Planet. And yeah, or I'll eat out or whatever. You know, like I'll grab like a burrito or Chipotle or something like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Uh-huh. And now, did you ever consider yourself being like? Were there things that you, in principle, avoided eating, like dairy and meat and sugar and all the typical things that
Yeah.
is
Well,
not recommended in macrobiotics?
yeah, I mean, because I didn't grow up with it, it was easy not to eat any of that
Right.
stuff. So I would eat chicken sometimes, like if I
Chicken.
get a burrito, chicken burrito.
Okay.
But I didn't eat any red meat,
Okay. Oh. Okay.
you know. So and no dairy, virtually no dairy.
Okay. So you said you slightly changed your diet once you noticed the bump. What was the slight change?
Well, after the diagnosis, I said, okay.
Okay.
I just went back to eating how we ate growing up when we were kids.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Which like grains and vegetables and beans,
Yeah.
miso soup.
Yep. Yeah, I went and stuck to that, brown rice and all
Uh-huh.
that. Cut out the eating out and no chicken, no.
So I guess.
And no canned foods. or anything.
So I guess considering you were on the road like 30 days out of the year or more, that and the 25 days out of the year, that you probably ate out a lot, right? Fairly.
Yeah, maybe once every couple days or something. It depends.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
At a truck stop or something.
Yeah, well, not so much at truck stops. I would go to places like in Amarillo, Texas. There's a place called the Big Texan. It's not, you can walk to from.
Okay.
That is one place. Oh yeah, I said I didn't eat red meat. Well, I I would order a bison burger.
Oh,
there.
okay.
So
Yeah, that's interesting.
uh,
Okay. So now, so then you changed it. So then what happened after you got the diagnosis and it started getting, you had surgery?
no, I never had surgery.
No.
I mean, by August, Mr. Bump was the size of a baseball.
A baseball, okay.
You know, so after the diagnosis, I stopped driving
Okay.
altogether.
Oh, okay, yes.
You know, because it actually wasn't painful. There was no pain,
Uh-huh.
but it had gotten to the point where it was interfering with my movement.
Okay.
And so at that point, I had decided I had stopped. I haven't driven since then.
Uh-huh.
I mean, drove the truck to St. Louis from Virginia.
I remember
Yeah.
when you were informing us of your situation, that from what it looked like from the emails and communication that we had, it appeared like you thought you would be able to get rid of this in a few months and that you would be back on the road.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
That seemed like your attitude back then.
Yeah, at one point I thought November. You know, I pictured myself being back on the road by November,
Uh-huh.
etc. But that didn't happen. In October, Mr. Bump had grown to a certain, fairly large then, and so I had told the oncologist they said that radiation was available if that's something I wanted to consider, and I told the oncologist, well, unless I have an issue with Mr. Bump, like Mr. Bump started bleeding or something, then I wasn't going to do the radiation, but it did start bleeding soon after that.
I see.
So I opted for the radiation, and it was after the radiation that, soon after that, Mr. Bump turned into Mr. Crater, because the radiation got rid of the bump, but what was left where Mr. Bump was this crater.
Yeah.
So I call him Mr. Crater, and it was Mr. Crater was painful,
Uh-huh.
and the pain continued to increase over the next
I see.
3 months.
Uh-huh. Yes, and you were taking pain medications and all.
Well, actually, I wasn't at first,
Uh-huh.
and
Oh,
but
okay.
it was a couple months, but as the pain continued to increase,
I see.
I had to do something. You know, I was ready to do something.
So when you had changed your diet, nothing changed. It just kept growing.
Yeah. Mhm.
Uh-huh. Okay. And so then, what happened after that? You just kept going with immunotherapy treatments?
Yeah, I continued the immunotherapy treatments. It was once every 3 weeks, and
Uh-huh.
I had zero side effects from it, virtually no side effects.
Okay.
So they increased the dose. They doubled the dose and increased the interval to every 6 weeks.
I see.
So I was thinking, that's great. Well, if it's every 6 weeks, I could drive the truck in between.
Mm-hmm.
This is what I was thinking.
Yes,
you know.
right. Uh-huh.
But obviously I couldn't because of the pain and everything.
Okay.
And so, yeah. Oh, in the midst of all that, in August, a couple weeks after the diagnosis, I had a heart attack.
Oh, tell me about that. Yes.
We came back from Duke, Lisa and I, and I was carrying this cooler. I ran up the stairs with it, and when I got into the apartment, I couldn't catch my breath, and I told Lisa, and I lay down on the bed to catch my breath, and it wasn't. I wasn't able to catch my breath. I felt like there was some kind of a burning in my chest. It was a burning sensation, and I told Lisa, and Lisa said, "Well, if you're like this in 5 minutes, I'm going to take you to the hospital." And I said, "Okay," and then a few seconds later I said, "Well, I'm ready to go to the hospital now." And so we went to the hospital. She drove me to the emergency in Lynchburg General, and I was admitted right away. And they checked me out, and they said, yeah, I had had a heart attack. I ended up being there for 3 days, 2 nights, 3 days, and they scheduled a triple bypass. They said I needed a triple or quadruple bypass.
Mm-hmm.
And the nurse, she came in when she announced this, and she was animated and like happy, and she gave this presentation with like and this is what, well, I'll explain what's going to happen, and this is going to happen, etc.
Wow.
They cut this, and and I'm just sitting there listening. I said, okay, and Lisa's there listening, and then she said, and the best part is that at the end, after when we release you, we're going to give you a heart-shaped pillow, and that's going to be your best friend.
Okay.
And she said, anytime you want to cough or sneeze, you want to hold that pillow really tight against your chest, because
Oh my God.
they said,
Right.
because of the surgery,
Right.
you don't want,
It'll be sore
and you
yeah.
don't want it to open the wound to open
yeah,
up.
yeah.
Or,
Mhm.
and they said I was going to have some kind of a mesh that's holding my ribs together.
Yeah.
And we did one
Sure.
So I said, okay. She started off by saying, explain the heart is a pump.
Right.
And right away I say, well,
Okay.
that immediately told me, well, she doesn't know what the heart is.
Uh-huh.
So anyway, so then she explained all that. And then the surgeon came in after that, about an hour later, and he touched on a few of the things. And he said I was scheduled for Friday, 2 more days. And I said, well, and at the end he said, any questions? And I said, well, I'm considering waiting.
Right.
So he said, waiting. I said, how did I say? I'd like to look at other options or something.
Right.
And he was like, he acted like I had insulted him. He's like, you have no options.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, well, I'd like to. And anyways, made it clear that I wasn't going to go through with it.
Right.
So,
Uh-huh.
and so he said, okay, see ya. Good luck. And turned around and walked out of the room. Kind of stormed out of the room. And then nurse came back in and I was released.
Okay.
Then they gave me all these medications to take.
Right.
I took it for 4 days and I felt awful from it, so I stopped. I didn't take them after that.
I see.
So that was my heart attack story.
Is there more after that? Like, did you get another checkup or?
I called up Hall again, brother Larry, Dr. Larry or whatever. Yeah. And he set me up with the head cardiologist at Duke.
Okay.
And I saw him.
Mm-hmm.
And he actually, I brought the test results, and he actually said that the surgery wasn't necessary.
Oh, okay, good.
And what he recommended, but he did recommend a stent.
A stent. Oh, really?
Yeah, 2 stents or something like that. He showed,
Yeah, just to keep the valves open.
Yeah, so, but I said no thank you.
Uh-huh.
And so, anyway, so I read up on heart and all that.
Right.
The different things. And
was it this? So this was still while you had radiation treatment.
Yeah, this was actually before I started the radiation treatment.
Okay.
So, but one of the interesting, so I studied about the heart and everything. Mm-hmm. And one of the things I found out was that there's a study that was done in Italy many years ago, and what they found is that, contrary to what most people are told, that heart attacks aren't caused by blockage of the arteries, that actually in 80% or over 80% of the heart attacks, there is no blockage. The blockage happens after the heart attack. So it's not the cause of the heart attack. It's a result of the heart attack. Then it gets blocked. So So I mean, I never looked into any of this, but these are.
Where did you hear this?
Oh, just in reading,
Okay.
researching. A book I recommend is Tom Cowan's book
Okay.
regarding the heart. He's written many books.
C.
Cowan, Cowan,
Okay.
and and he himself says the heart is not a pump,
Right.
which is, I mean, it's not a new idea to me,
Right.
growing up with George Osawa's
Right.
ideas and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But it is to most people from a
Right.
Western medicine background.
Right. Who view the body like a machine.
Like a machine, exactly, and it's
Right.
not an expression in intelligence,
Mhm.
an expression of the universe. So.
Okay. So then what happened with your then after that you had no more. What did you do anything just to focus on your heart condition, like change your food or anything?
No, I just figure it'll take care of itself.
I see. Okay.
Yeah.
And since then you haven't had any other checkup on it.
No.
And
I mean, I saw the cardiologist a number of times.
Oh yeah. And he.
Yeah, I continued to see him for.
And did he see things improving or?
Yeah, they definitely improved.
Oh, great. And that was you just not doing anything really.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, I mean, I changed my diet.
Oh yeah. So how did you do that?
Well, I went back to eating.
Oh yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, as you said, our what we grew up with.
Yeah, and things seem to be improving in general. I mean, I was dealing with a lot of pain, all that, but I had a number of PET scans done, and the last one indicated that the cancer was actually. They didn't use the word remission. They said it was inactive.
Inactive. Okay.
Yeah, so I kind of relaxed a little bit and with my food, and then in December, within Mr. Crater, another Mr. Bump started to grow,
Oh.
and so I called up Duke and I said, hey, I'd like to get it.
Okay.
I'd like to get it checked out.
This is December 2021.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
and so they scheduled me for a PET scan, December 28th, and sure enough, it indicated that the cancer was active. Not only that, but it had spread.
Oh.
It was now like in something next to the aorta, left side of the neck,
Okay.
over here under my left, and I could tell something was up.
Mm-hmm.
So they scheduled me. They recommended I do another immunotherapy. I had stopped the immunotherapy before, the one that they were doing, because we just stopped at that point. But in November, but this time it was a much stronger drugs that they were using. They were going to use.
Mm-hmm.
So then I told them I was going to get a second opinion, and you recommended Dr. Yu in Annapolis, Maryland.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So I contacted him and I saw him.
Uh-huh.
And I saw him on January 17th
Okay.
this year. And he recommended I go on a strict ketogenic diet.
Mm-hmm.
So, I said, oh, no mochi, no udon, whatever, no rice, and no carbs, no grains. And then along with that, he recommended certain prescription drugs as well as supplements. So I take a whole bunch of different, during the course of the day, I take following his recommendation, including the keto diet. And I asked him, well, how long? He said, do you recommend I do this? And he said, 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
I said, 2 years? I said, okay.
Okay.
So I committed to do it for 2 years. I said.
Okay. Did you question why he suggested that?
Well, yeah, he explained because the cancer feeds
off of carbohydrates.
Off of sugar.
Sugar, yeah.
And carbohydrates turn into sugar.
Right.
So that's the food. He said that Papa Michio Kushi
Our dad, yeah.
had like a fifth of the cancer thing correct.
A fifth of, okay.
So he said his success rate is only like it's only 20% because there was other factors that he wasn't including.
Okay.
For
example.
He didn't actually explain
go
exactly.
into detail.
The one area he said that he was correct in is to restrict calorie.
Right. Yes, I'm definitely, people tend to eat less.
So that's, and growing up around the people the thousands of people Papa saw, it was clear that it wasn't nowhere near 100% success rate.
Right.
It was.
Yeah. One thing he said, I remember in working with him, he said that his success rate was like out of 100 patients, 30 might get better, and then the other 60, they don't, because they don't come back, or they just don't get better. So 30 maybe 30 get better, 30 stay and try, and then 30 just they don't go off and do other things, or
yeah. I mean, clearly, we know people that definitely
got better,
quote, cured themselves.
Yes.
But one of the things, like, I was always questioning Papa about all these different things, including cancer, years ago.
Yes. Okay, good. Now, before we get into that, I just have one other question about is, like your medical history. Did you, aside from that heart attack, were there other things in your past? Did you ever have any, like, did you ever go to the hospital for anything, or?
When I broke my toe in 1985.
Oh, okay.
I went to.
Okay, but before that, no.
No. Well, actually, I had a bout with vertigo.
Oh, yeah.
This was at the end of October in 2004.
Okay.
I was in California driving west on I-10, and the world just started spinning, and I managed to get my truck.
Pull over.
I was on my way to Fontana, to the yard that our company had, and as I got off the ramp, I couldn't make out the road. I could only barely make out the line on the side, and as the world was spinning, and when I got to the exit, I followed it, and I got to the exit, and I was thinking I needed to get off the interstate, the freeway.
Mm-hmm.
And so I went off the next exit, and I went to look at the traffic lights, and I couldn't see the traffic lights. I mean, I could see lights, but everything's spinning, so I couldn't discern with the traffic light from the street lights or anything like that. So I just pulled the truck off right there, set the brake.
All right.
And then I got nauseous. I jumped out of the truck, and then when I tried to get back in the truck, I just collapsed. I couldn't even stand up. And I crawled back into the truck, and someone had called 911, and cop showed up, and ambulance, fire truck showed up. So I was taken to the hospital then. So that was the only other time. And it was diagnosed as vertigo, and I was released about 6 hours later.
Oh, did they give you any medication or anything like that? Or?
They did when I was in the hospital.
Mm-hmm.
I actually fell asleep in the ambulance.
Oh, okay.
And as we were going, I asked which hospital am I going to, and so they told me, and so I had asked the officer for my phone, and so I called a friend and said, "Hey, I'm going to the emergency in this hospital. And
But you hadn't had that kind of episode since.
Yeah, no.
Okay.
So historically, I mean,
Pretty much you've been healthy.
yeah, I've been, I get a cold or flu sometimes, once every 5 years or so, 10 years. No headaches, never had headaches.
Okay.
Last stomach ache I had was in August 1973.
Right.
I haven't had a stomach ache since then, so.
Okay.
Yeah, and physically, the body's functioned the way that I've never felt restricted.
Okay. Okay, so now first let me check in. How are you doing? Are you okay? You comfortable?
Yeah, I'm doing fine, and
fine to go on.
Mr. Crater is doing good.
Fine to continue.
Yeah.
I guess if you're used to driving 11 hours on a stretch, this is probably nothing. Okay, so let's get into comparing, what you thought of the Papa or Michio's approach to cancer and your situation and just in general, like the Macrobiotic approach to cancer or disease, etc. But specifically also relating to you and whether I mean, like here we have this book, and I know I worked with Michio many years, and and know many of the patients that have recovered in here, and taught and worked at the Kushi Institute, ran the Kushi Institute, ran the East-West Foundation in Boston before that, where we had a counseling office and saw many cancer patients, including the many that are in this book actually. So I'm familiar with all of that. So I guess the question is, and you explained that Dr. Yu said that he's got 1/5 of it correctly. Now, in your view, what do you think about it all?
Well, I was the son that always. I was a troublemaker son, and so, and one of the ways is that I was curious about, even as a child, well, why do we eat this way? The other kids eat. I mean, when I was small, of course, I didn't know anything else. But once I started going to school, so I was always curious about it, and our mother always cautioned us not to eat other foods. So I listened to her for a while, but I was too curious I wanted to try everything.
Right.
So finally when I was 10, I tried chicken, for example, and I had a Coke. I didn't like it, Coke. Still don't care for sodas, but except for I like the orange soda. But anyway, so I would question them about these things, and
actually, one question I have, now that you're talking about the youth, you were born 5 years before me, and that was when our family was living in New York City.
Yeah.
And I was born in 1959. You were born in 1954.
Yeah.
And back then, mostly the family was just you and Lily and then Haluo, and the family was just living in an apartment, right? Or a house or small?
Well, yeah, I was living, when I was born, we were living in an apartment on West 119th Street.
Okay.
Right by Columbia University, because Papa was going to Columbia University during that time, when I was born. And then in early 1959, we moved to Rego Park in Queens. 8262 61st Drive in Rego Park, Queens, and you were born then, after we had moved to Rego Park.
Now, the question I want to ask you is: do you remember what kind of foods you were eating in that time. You have an exceptional memory.
Yeah, I remember.
That's one thing that it's remarkable. Your memory for details and numbers and dates and all of those things is fantastic. Like recently, you sent an email out of all the addresses that we've ever lived. When our family, and then of course later wherever you were living, you had listed every single address. And
I did that for the kids. I thought.
Yeah, no, I think it's brilliant. It's great.
Wanted to know, and then I thought, I'll share it with you and the brothers as well.
Yeah, no, it's great because I can't remember hardly any of the addresses that I've lived in, even like a few years ago. I don't remember them at all. It's not something I think about.
Yeah, well, I don't really think about it either. You know.
No, but that's the amazing part. That you can just pull it out and just say, oh, I know. That's pretty amazing. And maybe that has to do also with their trucking ability or spatial awareness or what, I don't know.
I know.
Anyways.
Yeah, when I was little, I always, even before I could
Yes.
walk, I always knew where we were. When I knew where the house was.
Right.
I had an orientation. Just knew automatically, you know.
Right. I remember stories where you would ride the subways.
Oh yeah,
all by yourself.
I love wheels. So
Right.
once I got to like 5, 6 years old.
And that was in New York City.
In New York, yeah, I would.
Just hop on the subway and go to the end and then come back.
Yeah, yes.
By yourself. You're 5 years old.
I started. I guess I was 6 when I first started using the public transit system by myself.
And our parents didn't worry where you were?
No, they trusted I knew where I was going.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm sure things were much different then back then too
and,
than they
you
are.
know, and I knew how to read a map and stuff on the wall.
Uh-huh. Yeah, and no cell phones,
Yeah.
no mobile phone. Yeah, so you're out there with no way to get a hold of us to do anything. Okay, well that's amazing. Uh-huh. So what were you eating in those 5 years before I appeared?
Basically the way we ate after you appeared.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, pretty much the same way.
For some reason, I recall like maybe you guys had milk and cheese and.
Well, there was a period of time when we moved to Rego Park. There's a friend of the family's that was living with us, and he back then milk and cheese and bread could be delivered to the house every morning.
Like the milkman coming with bottles.
So he liked to get that. He would order that. So,
I see.
So that was there in the house, and of course, you know, I wanted to try it, but Ma said no.
Oh, okay.
But when Lily went to first grade, and I went to kindergarten, my mother used to make her cheese sandwiches with white bread.
Oh, yeah. That's where it came from, the grilled cheese sandwiches.
Yeah, it wasn't grilled cheese. She didn't grill it, but she would put lettuce, cheese, and white bread, like Wonder Bread. Okay. And this would be Lily's lunch.
Wow.
And, you know, I was jealous. I wanted to have that too.
Right.
But Ma said, no. So I couldn't wait till I got to first grade.
Oh, And did you get them?
No, then she started making rice balls.
Okay, because that's what I got.
Yeah.
When I went to first grade, it was just rice balls and tea.
Right, exactly. So I said, Mom, you know, the first day of school, no, I want the cheese sandwich.
Yeah.
I said, no, not.
And at lunchtime, I would hide in the corner because all the students would look and say, "What are you eating?"
Oh, I see. Yeah, I didn't hide. I didn't care. You know.
Yeah.
I ate it. I wanted the cheese sandwich, but you know, the kids would, like you said, would crowd around. I just say, "Oh, it's Japanese food. It's rice."
Well, I'd say it's seaweed, and then they go, "Ooh, what's that?"
Yeah.
How can you eat that?
Yeah, I just tell them it's yummy, and they say, "Yeah, ooh."
Right.
It didn't bother me.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but anyway. Yeah, I was disappointed that I didn't get to take cheese sandwiches to school.
Okay, so let's jump ahead in your rebellious teenage years and trying chicken. And
Yeah,
this and-
I couldn't help but I was too curious to try all these.
right.
Yeah.
And so we're talking about as a general context, the different what ideas you thought were.
The one thing is that I knew Jojo Sawa. We called him Oji-chan, which means grandfather,
Right.
Japanese, and he would spend a number of weeks with us every summer.
Mm-hmm.
The first time I saw him was in 59, spring, early 59, at what's called the Buddhist Academy. My ma called it Buddhist Academy. It's a Buddhist church, Japanese Buddhist church along Riverside Drive on the Upper West Side in New York. I believe it's still there. Anyway, so that's the first time I went there with Ma and Papa, and there's this guy sitting at one end of this long table, and about a dozen people around the table, including our parents. And so that was the first time I met him and Lima, and they would stayed with us, and so every summer they would come and stay with us, and there would be a summer camp, the Macrobiotic summer camp. So like the first summer camp was out on Long Island. I was 4 years old, and then the second one was up in the Catskills, off of Route 17, exit 113. I mean, that's the exit number now, because I drive a truck, but
Right.
it didn't have that exit number back then. And it's called Forest Lake Cottages, and then the next summer it was in another place, a couple exits further north. And so anyway, so every summer there'd be these these camps. So the idea, supposedly the idea, the philosophy of macrobiotics is the way that Jojo Sawa taught it, and I would hang out with him sometimes and go for walks with him and stuff. Just as not just me, but Hal too and Lily.
Right.
So, but the message was about freedom. Okay. It wasn't. I mean, yes, there was some talk of.
Is that something he
disease.
specifically told you? Like, oh, the message of macrobiotics is freedom. Or don't forget that.
No, he didn't come out and say that specifically, but it wasn't about the food. It was about freedom.
Okay. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
But then in 1965, which was the last time I saw him, the last time he stayed with us, he and Papa thought it would be a good idea. Cancer was becoming a major issue at that point, and so they thought it would be a good idea to use cancer as a way to attract people to macrobiotics. And 1965, yeah.
Really?
We were living in Cambridge.
You remember that?
Yeah.
It was,
And Hal remembers that too.
Interesting.
Because I've talked to Hal about it. And so then after that, the focus of the teachings became
More as a
using diet to cure cancer.
I see. Specifically cancer, not
Specifically.
not generally.
Well, it was like anything, but the thing, and that's, and I was fairly young, but I thought it wasn't. Somehow the message didn't seem to fit.
Oh, right. It was a contradiction.
Yeah.
To freedom, or.
Yeah, exactly.
And same with just don't eat this or don't eat that.
Right.
That's a contradiction to freedom.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, Jojo Sawa said, if you're free, you can eat anything.
Right. Yes. He was
You
like,
can and not get sick.
Yes.
You know, it's so you know. And the other thing he said was that there's only one disease,
Right.
and he called it arrogance.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so and these are things I mean, he said a number of things that.
In other words, maybe another way to put it, would another way to put it be correctly, all diseases are manifestation of an arrogance?
Yeah, are symptoms of arrogance.
Uh-huh.
You
So
know,
any disease that you might
Yeah,
have.
so I kind of, last night I was thinking about some of Giorgio Osawa-isms.
Uh-huh.
And like, one thing, and I didn't understand most of what he said till I was 50 years old.
Okay.
But I remembered them, and
Right, sure.
I would contemplate them here every once in a while, here and there. And driving a truck is a good place to do that.
Yeah, I imagine so.
So like he said, humans today don't know how to think.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And he says what people think is thinking is not real thinking.
Okay.
And there's only one disease called arrogance.
Mm-hmm.
And he said all diseases are a symptom of arrogance.
Okay.
And when we're healthy, we can eat anything. Sometimes, okay, this is the one that I really focus on my entire life trying to understand this.
Okay.
One is, you're responsible for everything in the world.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
And and when I heard it, I was about 6 when I heard him say that.
6 years old.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I just couldn't wrap my head around it. I mean, I felt like there's something true about what he was saying.
Right.
But I didn't know but I couldn't figure it out.
Okay.
And for the next few days, I thought about it.
When you're 6.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
All day, just wondering, what does he mean? How can I, I'm hearing about famines or wars. How is it that I'm responsible for something that's going on the other side of the world or something?
Yes.
Things like
Good question.
that.
Yeah.
So these are the things I ponder. And then and so continuing throughout my life, every so often I would look at that question. And so now I understand what he was talking about. And not only do I understand it, I see that he's correct.
I see. Okay.
And humans today don't know how to think. He's referring to what I call phantom selfing.
Okay.
The way in which we talk to ourselves.
Right. Uh-huh.
Is past as thinking, but that's not thinking at all. It's what I call.
Uh-huh.
It's talking to oneself as though there's a separate person or separate thinker talking.
I see. Yeah. Okay.
And
I think.
And what I realize is there actually is no one that's thinking. The person that's thinking doesn't exist. The idea of the person thinking is only in thinking in itself, and in looking at these questions and looking at was the question that came up for me in 2004 is what does it mean to be human? So as I'm driving, I'm kind of just meditating on that question.
Yeah.
Even though I didn't consider it meditating. I never thought I meditated, but I realized driving is like meditation. So, and
just on that question, every time I would promote the Kushi Institute or promote our father's work and explain his story, I explained that was a question that he was contemplating in New York City when he was after concluding that the real question about war, like how to end war, and what makes people aggressive or passive, that looking at that, the real question to look at is not war and peace, but what is a human being and what makes a human being. Yeah? And if you can solve that, then you can solve everything else. That was So that's
Is that
that's
what Papa said?
yes. That's what that's how he explained his journey in discovering and reaffirming what George Osawa was saying. That through that it's understanding what is a human being and studying that led him to agree with George about macrobiotics and the importance of food and everything else that the larger view of macrobiotics offers. Not specifically the disease. That's like an application, a limited application. But anyways, go on with your idea about what is a human being.
Well, that was the question that I started asking myself. 2004 is, what does it mean to be human? And so I was looking at the world through the lens of that question, and so all these insights started to come in about in response to that question, and what was eventually revealed is that what thinking is, what language is, and so in the recognition, in the seeing what thinking is, then the thinking can stop automatically by itself. And after three days of no thinking, it suddenly hit me that everything I thought I was is only in thinking. And here I was continuing to drive a truck and everything in spite of the fact that there's no thinking. And I saw that I don't exist. And
the I that you thought that you think you are.
Right, it's a fiction. It's only in language.
What about your physical body? I mean,
there is a form here.
Yes.
A physical form.
Right.
And the physical form, human form, one of the things that it's inherently designed to do is to language and to think. So the form itself is capable of thinking, but what happens is that George Osawa, said that people are their thinking is dualistic thinking.
Yes.
Dualistic thinking, and I didn't understand what that meant until there was a recognition of what thinking really is. And so, I mean, people who are interested in spirituality and all that have heard the term non-dual or non-duality, whatever. And that's an incomplete idea in and of itself. The way George Osawa was presenting is dualistic thinking, because there's contrast. Otherwise, we wouldn't be here playing, without any contrast. So the idea that everything is one is just another idea based on dualistic thinking.
Okay.
So,
as opposed to it not being one.
Yeah.
And so then there's the dualism.
Right. So what happens is when we're a toddler, when we begin to speak, when we learn to speak, the way in which people are speaking around us and speaking with us is with the assumption that there is a separate me inside the body that is in control and is doing the thinking. So here now this is now in 2005, beginning of 2005. I finally saw that there is no thinker.
Okay.
There is no thinker that is thinking. Thinking is happening because, in the same way, we breathe. Breathing. We don't have zero attention on the breathing, and we can say, "Oh, I'm breathing," but regardless, the breathing is happening.
Yes, but
And so thinking in the same way is just happening. There's no thinker of the thought. And as soon as that was recognized, then I saw that's true with everything. Like there's no one that's seeing anything out there. I'm not when I look out the window at the trees, I'm not looking at the trees. That's just in speaking, that we state it in that way. And so, and what I call the human dilemma is that in seeing this, I saw the human dilemma, what I call the human dilemma, which is that we don't know what we are, and we don't know that we don't know.
Okay.
And we go through our entire life never questioning what we are. And it turns out everything that we're assuming is what we are is a fiction. And we spend our life trying to improve this fiction, something that doesn't exist. It's only in language, in speaking. And if we look at what thinking is talking to oneself, or not to oneself, but the talking to itself. And in the way that we're talking to itself, we're talking to ourselves as though there is someone separate, a separate thinker that is thinking. And that separate thinker doesn't exist. That separate thinker is only a part of thought, a fragment of thinking.
Okay.
So contrary to what Papa was saying, like he wrote the book One Peaceful World, after he came out with that book, I questioned him about all of that.
What did you say? What was the question
Well, this was many years before the recognition that occurred in 2005.
Right.
But I was sitting at Dunkin' Donuts,
With him.
Yeah, Mr. Donuts, and it's one of the only books I read of his.
Okay.
One Peaceful World, because I was curious about it. And I told him that he asked me about it. He asked, "What do you think?" And I said, "Well," I paused and I said, "Well, it doesn't seem to make sense." There's a logic behind it,
Right.
but he was focused on food,
Right.
So the process of getting to world peace is through everybody eating, quote, macrobiotically.
Right.
And I always question him, what does macrobiotics mean? I never claimed to be macrobiotic or anything. I never liked that word. As a noun, I never liked that word. So, and so he asked me, well, he said, then what do you think is the way?
Right.
Oftentimes, I'd be critical about something.
Right.
With Papa,
Right.
like when he started the Kushi Institute, it baffled me.
Right.
Why would you set up a Kushi Institute? Made no sense to me.
So
Anyway, we get back to that sitting there in Dunkin' Donuts. So he asked me, and I paused. I looked and I let the question sink in, and I sat there for a few seconds, and then I said, "I don't know." And that was 100% truthful.
You don't know why you think this, or
No, I don't know. I don't know how to I don't know how to create one peaceful
Oh,
world.
okay. Oh, because he asked you that, yes.
Right, he asked me that question.
How do you create one peaceful world? Okay.
And I realized that it was impossible for me to know.
Ah.
Because peace is not a goal.
Mm-hmm.
Peace is a place of being.
Mm-hmm.
And peace it's in the way in which we relate with each other.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Whether it's
Sure.
individually, nationally, whatever.
Yes.
And so unless I fully embrace and understand you, there's no peace.
Mm-hmm.
You know, in other words, I didn't know this at the time, but the phantom selfing is the source of violence
Okay.
and suffering.
You mean the illusion that we are something,
Right, exactly.
that an identity that
Yeah.
we need to take care of and preserve.
Right, and we're walking around
Mm-hmm.
with an identity, a position,
Mhm.
beliefs,
Right.
Attachments,
Mm-hmm.
And mine.
Uh-huh.
And like I
Right,
said,
this is me. I am.
Right, and I
US
have,
citizen.
and that's why I say, like, I have cancer.
Okay.
I have a nice house.
Right.
I.
So it's all reinforcing the existence
existence
of
of
this identity that is created in language.
Right, it only exists in
Okay.
as a linguistic distinction.
Right. Uh-huh. Yeah.
And so I told Papa, I don't know, because I don't know who people are.
Uh-huh. Okay.
So until I know
Mm-hmm.
who people are, then the peace is in the relating with people, not.
Right.
It's not a goal.
Uh-huh. Right.
And how I relate with you or whatever is to understand you and to say that I understand you before I even know you.
Mm-hmm. Right. Okay. I understand.
Now what I'm doing is I'm imposing my ideas on.
Right. Yes.
And that it closes the understanding.
Uh-huh. Right. Okay. I see your
So
point.
so I realized, I can't know. Not that I don't, not just that I don't know.
You need to know the
but I can't know.
You need to know the person and the relationship first.
Right.
Before you can.
Yeah, and yeah.
Before you can know how to create a peace, make it peaceful. Uh-huh.
Right, or not even make, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So that was, so these are the ways I kind of was kind of poking Papa.
Right.
Yeah. And, there are other things.
Did he respond to, oh, no, you said I don't know. So,
that kind of ended it.
Yeah, right, that would end it right there, okay.
Yeah.
Uh-huh. All right, so now, with this, now you do acknowledge that there's a body.
Yeah,
Yes.
there's a form. There's a physical material form.
Right, and most people would say that's me.
Yes.
Uh-huh.
Or my body.
That's my body, yes.
Yes.
Or my body is who I am. Or,
Yeah, exactly. And none of it's true.
Uh-huh. Okay.
That's only a linguistic
Right.
speak. It's like we point to a tree and say, hey, that's a tree.
Uh-huh.
There's some form that's showing up there, right?
Uh-huh. So, yes.
But the word tree is not the
Tree itself.
right, or what we're calling a tree.
Right.
So same thing with. So our world is comprised of of how we're languaging.
Right. Okay.
So how we're languaging is then projecting a world out there.
Right. Okay.
So we are responsible for everything in the world because we're languaging into existence the world.
So then, yes. Okay.
Yeah.
So then I'll ask you this: is if it's us who's creating our reality or the real physical reality based on our own languaging or distinguishing, or then just by changing the language, would we change the world? And then more to the point, considering your condition, just by changing your language, would you be able to get rid of your cancer, or get rid of this notion, or get rid of whatever this is? It's not, we're not saying it's cancer, or that it's just whatever this is that is you're dealing with.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm playing with it.
All right.
I'm playing with it, but I don't know.
Yes, and so have you thought about why you got this bump? Like,
No, not really.
Have you thought about if you had done something else, it would not have appeared, or?
No, it doesn't occur to me.
Okay.
Yeah, the idea that I could have done anything differently is just another fiction.
Okay. Yes, and
I mean, nothing wrong with playing with ideas and stuff.
Now, I did want to get back to when you started Keto, and now you're on a 2-year keto diet plan with Dr. Yu. That once you got on, what happened to you once you got on that and started, like physically, what happened to you?
Within a week, my pain level dropped by 50%.
Okay.
And my energy level increased, doubled.
Okay.
It's still not stable, like during the course of the day I'll have low and high energy levels. But it's much better than.
And you said that there was a tumor, that was a second tumor growing.
Oh yeah, it fell off.
It fell off once you started the keto diet?
Actually, it fell off prior to that.
Prior to that? Oh.
And I told Dr. Yu, about that. He said, "Oh, that's good. Your body's still fighting the cancer, fighting the."
Okay.
So it's still, still active, still.
I see. So.
Still strong.
I guess the question is what difference has the keto diet eating made in your life when you started? I think you mentioned something about your leg being swollen, and then.
Oh yeah, my left leg had got swollen quite a bit. And numb. And within a week, it shrunk back to normal.
On keto.
Switched.
So with the keto, your pain went down by 50%, your energy went up, and the leg swelling went away.
Yeah.
Anything else?
I mean, I feel better, and also Dr. Yu recommended I follow the Duke protocol, so I started these stronger infusions, immunotherapy.
Okay.
And that has, quote, side effects, even though there's no such thing. The effects of the treatment, as much as anything else, it's really knocked me for a loop.
Okay. Is that like other injections or what?
Yeah, through the infusion, intravenously.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so is there anything else, like, I know we could talk for hours to elaborate this whole, like, your view versus our parents' view. But actually, one thing I did want to say, being the oldest son, did you feel any pressure for them that you should, like, I know in traditional Japanese families, we all know that the oldest son is normally dedicated to continuing the work of their parents. And society, pushes them to do that.
Yeah, fortunately, we live in the United States, and our parents didn't adhere to the Japanese tradition. Yeah,
but there was no pressure for you for.
No, not at all.
They just were fine with you exploring.
Ma was especially supportive.
Okay.
When I was 4 years old, we were out on a picnic. No, I was older than that. because she was breastfeeding you, and so. Anyways, so it must have been 1960. So anyway, she told me to always to trust my feelings and not intellect.
Right.
He said that feelings are what will guide you through life.
Right.
And at that age, I knew what she was talking about. So so that's what
Right.
I've done.
Which, yes, actually, you mentioned that in this book,
Yeah.
this book that written by Steve Earle.
Yeah.
And he interviewed you, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And you talk about your feelings and your instincts and
Yeah.
how some of them came true like years later.
Yeah, because I drew after there was a recognition that the I is a fiction.
Right.
Then the reason our attention is I drew a map.
Yes,
Of the
okay.
onion map.
Do you think
And
we could
there's
put that
7
up?
different layers to the onion. So this was revealed to me over the next couple weeks.
Mm-hmm.
Where I was in silence virtually. There was virtually no thinking, and there's nothing wrong with thinking. But
Mm-hmm.
so when the thinking ended, then the attention was no
Okay.
longer
Yes.
restricted
Mhm.
to thinking.
Yeah, we have it on now, right?
Yeah. So the
So you had,
the feeling layer,
yes.
or the attention can move into any of the layers
Uh-huh.
in the onion. So at our core, we're infinite.
Okay.
So Papa used to say, we come from infinity and we go back to infinity.
Yes.
Well, he didn't quite get it right.
He did say also we live within infinity.
Okay. So yeah, we never left infinity.
Right.
I mean there isn't. I mean
Right.
There isn't really a we, but
Right.
so everything's so there's the so at our core we're infinite, and then the next layer out is vibration.
Okay.
Okay, which is it's not sound, it's vibration.
Right,
Because there's
okay.
nothing that can hear anything
Mhm.
at that layer. So and the vibration, that's the beginning of what the universe languaging.
Okay.
And then the next layer is light. So the Bible says, let there be light.
Right.
So that's what it's referring to.
Right.
After hearing back different things in like in the Bibles or whatever.
Right.
Now I understand what they're talking about.
Okay.
And then the next layer out is resonance.
Okay.
What I call resonance. Not sure exactly how to describe it. Then there's feeling, which is colored it yellow.
Mm-hmm.
That represents the form,
Okay.
the material form. So out of the resonance, the matter is created.
Mm.
And then the next layer is conceptual. So the next outer 2 layers is when we're born is dormant. So then once we begin to speak, the human brain, the aspect of languaging, the next conceptual layer,
Okay.
and then with that relating to others in relationship, then that's the other 2 layers, and that is as much who the individual human being is you are just as much an aspect of this one form here.
Mm-hmm.
This one form is just as much an aspect of your individual form, and it's but we don't see it that way. So because we're identifying with a me, which is a linguistic distinction, so what that is it focuses the attention in just the layer called the conceptual that I've painted orange, and because that's the place that the me itself is only a concept in speaking. So once there's an acceptance that that's what I am, then as we go through life, our attention is on that one layer, conceptual layer, and we lose touch with the other layers. So if you notice in this onion map, once we become fixated in that layer, then we still are in touch with the feeling layer, like emotions and things like that. But we're no longer in touch with the
inner layers. If we're in touch, where what Ma was, the way I see it now is that what our mother was telling me is to put our attention in the feeling layer, not the conceptual layer. And that's what will guide me through life.
I see.
And so therefore, I was in touch with the inner layer, the adjacent layer, the resonance layer. So if you look at the map, this circle, I also labeled the resonance layer as non-local, timeless. And the feeling layer is presence. The body is always in present time. Then time is created in the outer layer, the conceptual layer. And then the outer, in relationship, I put agreements.
Right.
And those agreements is creativity. So our world is a creation of our relationship and how we're speaking in relationship. And we don't recognize that overnight, if there's a shift in the speaking, there's a shift in our reality. So all human problems is based on the idea that there's a separate me,
Right.
and it's attached to position. So the energy moves from the inner core, the infinite, out. Another word for infinite is unconditional love.
Yes. Okay.
So this unconditional love is continuously flowing out and in, in like a circular motion.
Yeah. Is love the correct word for that? Because when you hear love, you think about more like romantic love, or love of
there's
family,
romance,
and love of or love of nature, or love of whatever.
Yeah, it's.
But something that's continuously flowing, is that?
Yeah, ultimately, that all there is unconditional love. Everything is, we can say, is an expression of the infinite, or expression of infinite love. Unconditional love is.
Okay.
It's not a place; it's more of a space. And it's not something you give. Love is true love. Unconditional love is not something you can give or receive. It's just it's a space being. So, where there's no. So, to get back to the layers. So, our mother suggesting I put my attention on the feeling layer.
Right.
I had access to the resonance layer. And so in that resonance layer, it's timeless. So you can easily see things forwards and backwards. And it's possible to see things, thousands of years ago, or thousands of years in what we think is the future. Whatever. I mean, it's timeless. So the feeling layer is the presence, and then time. We don't recognize that time is created in thinking.
Right.
There is no time. Time is also,
Right.
so I call our reality a linear time-based reality.
Mhm.
So I know I'm long-winded, and
No, it's,
So-
I'm following you.
so the way that the way that I perceive when I recognize that time is created in thinking, I saw that there are no separate events. It's just one flow,
Right.
from continuous flow.
Right.
So as the energy, unconditional love is flowing through the different layers, it's appearing as different things.
Mhm.
So from the infinite, it's then appearing as vibration, then appearing as light, and appearing through resonance, appearing as a physical form,
Mhm.
and then appearing then as the same energy moving through the brain is then interpreting it as language,
Mhm.
cognition, and then it's appearing as society.
Right.
So in that recognition, I saw that my birth and my death was the same thing.
Mm.
There's no separation between birth and death.
Mhm.
It's a single movement.
Mhm.
So the analogy the image that came to me was like an arrow being shot from a bow.
Mhm.
That the arrow, when it's released, is birth,
Mhm.
and when it hits the target, it is death.
Okay.
But it's a single movement.
Right.
And if the arrow were human, the arrow would, during flight, would be saying, "Oh, I should have done this," or maybe I'll do
Right.
this, or
Right.
that person's whatever.
Sure.
It be talking to itself
Uh-huh.
in the way we are as humans.
Uh-huh.
And then boom, hits the target.
Uh-huh.
Okay. And so not only did I see that it hits the target, I also saw that regardless of the appearance of anyone, it always hits the bullseye.
Okay. Right.
So
Nobody not dies.
well, it's not only but I emphasize the point that it hits the bullseye is because you never did anything wrong.
Right. Uh-huh.
There's no right or wrong. That's
Right.
an illusion too.
You're just living. Or
Right,
you're just-
exactly.
and-
And regardless of how the living is appearing,
Mhm.
you did it perfectly.
Okay.
Yeah. So nobody has ever done anything wrong in their
Right.
entire life.
So let me ask you this. How would you explain when George Sao said all disease is arrogance? What is that arrogance?
Well, the arrogance is the me.
Oh, the me. It's thinking that you are an identity,
Yeah, that I exist.
that you exist. So
And-
that's the arrogance.
And I saw that it's created in language.
Mhm.
And so I see that 90% of the way we speak is based on a separate speaker speaking. And so therefore, I consider, call that phantom selfing. I see the self, I started calling the self a phantom self.
Uh-huh.
And that in speaking, we're speaking as though there is a self.
Uh-huh.
And the way that the world is showing up is the way in which we're speaking.
Mhm.
The world is it's not that we're interpreting the world that's already out there.
Uh-huh.
The world out there is showing up in the way we're speaking.
Right.
So 90% of the world that's showing up is based on phantom selfing.
Uh-huh.
That there's a separate me, and that's an
Okay.
illusion.
So let me see if I get this correct.
Okay.
From what I'm hearing from you. So you have this, as back to the original question
Yeah.
about having diagnosis or
Yeah.
or having cancer versus being diagnosed with cancer. Because obviously one is the languaging. Because
Yeah.
if you say you have cancer, then you are affirming the phantom self, as you say.
Right, affirming that there's a separate me that has something.
So then saying you were diagnosed with cancer is that's just the terminology or language in the agreement world of,
Right,
of
exactly.
people saying this is
Yeah.
what we need to communicate, and this is what we're calling it
Yeah.
right now. So then if you're using your map and going down deep into the infinity perspective, or where arrogance is the not is no longer the arrogance is affirming of your phantom self or your illusory self or the self-identity, then that would also mean then your disease isn't necessarily a disease. It's just part of that trajectory of the arrow.
Right, exactly.
Going through
there actually
time.
is no disease.
There's no time. There's just your life going that way. And you're just living your life regardless. And it showed up. And whatever may happen, may happen.
Yeah.
But then where's the freedom come in? Like, can you change this?
Well,
if you're just an arrow going in one direction, that doesn't sound like there's any freedom in that. It's just like...
Yeah, I understand. I believe I understand your question. Mm-hmm. It's... the freedom is in the lack of suffering. The freedom is like, because of the phantom selfing, the phantom selfing way of going through life is we're mistaking the map for the territory. Like we're interpreting the energy, and then in the speaking, then the world is showing up in the way in which you're speaking, and then we complain about it.
Uh-huh. Right.
You know, so here we're creating this world, and then we're complaining about it.
Right.
You know? So there's no longer a conflict between what appears to be out there and what is.
Yes. I mean, that I can understand. Like taking away the whole idea that exist nation states, and that we have to fight this and to fight that, and if we take that all away, there'd be nothing to fight over.
Yeah, and
that I understand. But then where is the freedom? I mean, yes, I see that you might not suffer because you're not thinking those things, or you're not even coming from those places.
Yeah, the suffering and freedom isn't.
Is the freedom? Would the freedom be that you can all of a sudden be aware of all of that, and you can choose to affirm your identity if you want to, or you can choose not to?
Yeah, we actually, because the I is not real, the I has no power. But we give it power. It's like we pick up this teddy bear and say, "This is me," and we give the teddy bear power, which it doesn't have.
Right. Or would it be then that the freedom is an illusion as also?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Because ultimately there is no prison.
Okay.
And so the freedom is a place where there's no prison.
Right. So
maybe no attachment.
Maybe that arrow analogy isn't necessarily, because it just visually it just doesn't look like it's free, as opposed to a sun shining where it's shining everywhere or something like that. Maybe that's a better visual.
I understand. Yeah, the arrow analogy was something that I saw prior to the recognition that I don't exist. It was one of the insights that came to me. Didn't come to me. It was seen that time was created, was an illusion, and that completely shifted the way I looked at the world. I no longer saw myself as having to get to LA. Say,
right.
Like the insight came when I was picking up a load in Pennsylvania. I was on my way going to California, and I paused for a few seconds and just imagined me arriving in California. And it was in that moment I saw, there is no, I don't have to do anything to get there. The getting there was already done. And so I could just sit back. Ever since then, I'm driving, but I feel like I'm just sitting there watching the world go by.
And that holds true with your experience with what you're dealing with now.
Right, exactly.
Physical.
Yeah. So
even though you are making choices, like you got to see the doctor at this appointment, or
right?
This trip, but it's all part of this kind of
right, and it's not even a choice.
Yeah.
You know, in actuality, none of us have ever made choices in our life.
Okay.
You know, in every moment, the next step arises.
Right.
But then there's this talking to itself that's saying, "What should I do? I should do this or that,
okay.
etc., etc."
Right.
And then there's the action.
Right. That's the arrow analogy.
Right.
Okay.
So yeah. So yeah. So to me, I see this as, I don't see there's anything wrong whatsoever. It doesn't occur to me that there's anything wrong.
Yes, that I understand.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. However, do you see that if you choose things that well, let's go back for 1 second to the keto diet. So right now, give me a sample of what you ate recently.
This morning I had eggs, scrambled eggs with broccoli, mushrooms. I had bok choy with these hamanato.
Okay.
Steamed. That was my.
Wouldn't that might not be go ahead.
That may not be
allowed on the keto.
Oh, maybe
beans,
not.
You know?
Maybe it's not, but that's what I had.
Okay. And you've had, I know you've had like meat yesterday when I saw you. What you were eating some.
Yeah, Ryan had made me a salad, and he had prepared a steak, ribeye steak that he sliced up.
And you mentioned you had bone broth and.
Yep.
All kinds of other.
Yeah, once or twice a day I'll have bone broth.
Uh-huh. So mainly just meat and vegetables.
Yeah, and dairy.
And dairy.
You know.
Oh, okay.
I now include dairy.
Cheese.
Yeah.
Milk. Okay. Which is completely not what it says in this book.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So for me, I don't have an idea that I should or shouldn't do anything. So.
And yet you're feeling better. You're feeling stronger.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's like you recommended seeing Dr. Yu.
I did, yes.
And so I said, okay. You know, I didn't feel like I chose to do it.
Okay.
You know, I said, okay, yeah, sounds good. It felt good in my body when he said that.
Okay.
And I said, okay.
Good.
And then I listened to him. And he said, you know, it's like when the heart surgeon it's recommended I have this triple bypass. It didn't feel good in my body, you know. So, no, thank you.
Yeah.
You know, and it you know, I just stay calm throughout. I mean, there's nothing to be alarmed about. You know, and like, you know, when I was admitted in the emergency room, you know, like, I mean, the whole thing was fascinating. I'd never been like. You know, oh, they gave me an aspirin. It's the very first drug I ever took.
Really?
In my entire life. I had never had an aspirin or anything before.
Really?
Yeah, because I never had headaches or anything, so there's no need, or no stomach, there was no need to, never occurred to me to take any. So, you know, I'm just fascinated by the whole thing, and the nurse asked Lisa, you know, is he always so calm? And she just nodded.
Okay, so we're actually running out of time.
Okay.
I promised questions. Have you noticed anybody asking questions, or do you have any questions, the audience here? So I do want to make a disclaimer. We're not here to sell books. We're not here to make money. Nothing like that at all. I'm not making any money. This is all done for free, and Norio's happy to share. So this has nothing to do with any financial scheme. So I know I often get a criticism of that whenever I put something out. Oh, you're just here to sell an idea and sell your books or sell a subscription or sell something like that. No, I'm not doing any of that. I'm just putting this out there.
Well, you and I will get criticisms regardless of what we say or do.
That's true. but I just
That's
wanted
part of the flight of the arrow.
right. I just wanted to squash that one.
So,
But
and that's not quite true, because one of my kids set up a
oh yeah, there's a
funding
site. Go.
Because-
No, what is it called? Give, send, go.
Give, Send, Go. Yeah.
Give, send, go, and yeah.
And he set it up. We were talking about after I saw Dr. Yu, and there's
A cost to it.
there's a cost to it, and I haven't worked for
Right.
since August
Yeah.
2021. So.
Yeah. Yeah. So if you are interested,
So yeah, if
and
anyone's
inclined,
interested,
we'll add the link at the bottom of the YouTube video, or YouTube in the when I post it. So any questions you come across? We'll try to answer at least one or two.
yeah, I have no idea. I haven't been keeping track of the time. I
Yeah.
can just ramble
Sorry.
on with Norio
I
nonsense.
know, no, it was all good, and there was a whole lot more that I wanted to ask you, but we're just like out of time.
There's a whole lot more I wanted to say. Too.
Yes. So what we could do is people can obviously ask me questions on my newsletter
Yeah.
and on the YouTube channel, and I could forward them to you to answer, and maybe we can somehow get them
Yeah. Mm.
either put on.
Yeah,
the YouTube
and
channel.
if there's a demand, we could do another interview.
Okay.
And it could be, we don't need to be in the same location. We could do
Oh
it
yeah, we could do it on Zoom or
Zoom
something.
or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Let's plan that.
And with Zoom, we can actually invite people to.
Oh, so we can see them.
Yeah, exactly.
And they can participate.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Let's do that. Maybe I know you've done Zooms with Lisa. Maybe we can set up something like that.
Yeah, and I mean, I like this format as well. It's both are, but they're different. So.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, I appreciate questions because,
Okay.
I want to speak to what's relevant to the audience.
Yes.
And so
Yes.
their questions point to what is relevant to look at.
Mm-hmm. Good. Okay. And yes.
You can either look at the questions on
It doesn't come up on my side.
I
What?
have a question if there's
Okay,
time for it.
we have a question. Carlisle?
Yes, yes.
Okay. So since we're mic'd, I'm going to repeat your question.
Okay, okay. I'm gonna read two sentences from this book, if that's okay. And from the book about Norio and Steve's book. The dissolution of the psychological Norio most obviously does not mean the end of the Norio person. The Norio person is an entity, an individuated but holistic whole. So I'm back to my curiosity about no self, but the difference between saying there's that Norio is not real, but the person Norio is. I'm not even sure.
Okay. Yeah. I'm gonna. Well, sorry. I was just a little distracted. So you're
Right.
Yeah. Why don't you? No, you keep your mic because you're going to answer.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So maybe let me give you the microphone.
Okay.
You can answer the
Ask the question.
ask the question.
Okay. So I hear you saying that
Do you mind being on camera?
No, that's fine. Yeah. You get to be on camera too.
To you as you're speaking.
Iris wanted to be on camera. So.
Smile, you're on candid camera.
So I hear you saying that the self is not real, that the Norio character, that the important discovery was that the Norio character is an illusion, a fiction created by language that only exists in the imagination or in the mind. But I also hear you saying that this form, this body, we call Norio, this consciousness here, like that's real. Is the real experience of this individual human being.
Yeah.
So I don't understand how those two I'd like more clarification about both of those, what they mean.
Okay. Well, yeah, good question. Oh. Okay, thanks, Cara. Yeah, it's a good question. When I say that, what it is that because we don't know what we are, we're identifying with a fragment in language. We mistake the map for the territory. So there's nothing wrong with languaging. There's nothing wrong with labeling, saying something, calling something a tree. In the same way, there's nothing wrong with playing the game Monopoly. In order to play Monopoly, there are rules, and there's a game board, and we use a character. Okay, but as we're playing the game, we never say that's who I really am, this character. I mean, when we were younger, we were much more invested in winning and all that. I remember playing games because children really get into the roles. But even as children, we know it's a character when we're playing Monopoly. So in the same way, because humans have language, they're creating an idea of a character and playing that role, which is an idea, right? So there's nothing wrong with that. Where we get into mischief, where humanity gets into, is in thinking that is who I am. So that game piece, that pewter hat, that's really who I am. No problem, you can still play the game whether you identify with that as who you are or not. You can still, and you can be successful, whatever, but in fact it's only a game. And the game piece is just a game piece to play the game. So the me is real in the sense that it is a linguistic creation. And anything in the world does not exist until it is labeled. And so...
In the linguistic world.
Well, actually out there. People think that language is for communication. And it's not. Language is for creating, it's for creation. And creation, until the child becomes a toddler, and the brain, the languaging aspect of the brain is activated, there is no self. The child is not identifying with anything. It's not separate from anything. There is no idea of separation or anything. And then in language, then once the way humans are designed to play is to language. So the purpose of language is to create the world out there, and it's created it's not I'm creating, because the I is only creation in and of itself in this thing. The creation is happening in relationship. The languaging is happening in relationship. And without relationship, language cannot occur. Without relationship, creation cannot occur. So in relationship, we are creating the world out there. And that's why on the outer layer, I call that layer also the agreements. So in languaging, so what you can say is you and I, the I is an agreement. In the same way, the nation states is obviously a human creation. An eagle, when flying from Canada to the United States, doesn't have to carry a passport. It's an agreement. So there's nothing wrong with any of that. It's just we mistake the map for the territory. And we think that's real. And so we're willing to kill each other because we believe that the nation is real, that I am Japanese, I am German, I am whatever, and you're my enemy if you're not meat, American, or whatever. You know, so the source of suffering, violence, and all that is the original sin is the mistaking the meat, which is only a game piece, for who I am. So in the same way, animals have no problem moving about in the world without languaging. They communicate, of course. But, you know, so the primary function of language is creation. The secondary function of language for humans is that we use it to communicate as well. So yes, both exist simultaneously, but one's an idea that we use as an agreement to play with. The other one, there's a physical form here. Energy that is transformed into a material form, playing and creating with this another energy that's showing up there. My mother labeled this one Norio. Your mother labeled that one Carlisle. But that's the title of the game piece, name of the game piece.
Okay, so just glancing over these, was that set?
Thank you very much.
Okay. So just glancing over these questions, there's a lot more questions more specific to your treatments and other things, but I think we're out of time. And so what we'll do is we will do another event, and maybe a regular event, maybe on Zoom. In a Zoom format, and maybe.
Okay, so what I'd like to do is, I apologize to everyone for being so long-winded, but if we can, you know who the questions are coming from, right?
Yes, the chat is here.
So we could answer by email or.
Yeah, or I think because it's on chat, we could probably answer it in the comment section in the YouTube when I post it, or we could just organize a new event and address these questions at a new event and make sure that we have time, like a Zoom event where it's much more participatory. And we've kind of laid the foundation of a lot of stuff, and of course there's a lot more things that we could talk about, but like in the Zoom we could like divide it evenly, just it's more talking than the other half just questions, so that people can participate. And maybe you could even do it on a quarterly basis, because you'll be going through changes. Your arrow in time will be at a different place in the future, and
my life is definitely a roller coaster.
And we'll see how it goes for you, and so then we could do that, and maybe we can get Dr. Yu joining us on a Zoom together. Just I don't know if he will, but let's not get too not too bogged down in the.
I mean, I like the simplicity of this brother to brother format. It's relaxing, and it's.
And I know there's probably a lot more people interested in the process of how you arrived at all of these things, and
I'm going to be talking. Gina invited me to speak for about an hour. April 2nd, Sunday.
Okay.
I'll be starting at 7:30 a.m. Eastern time.
Right. So what I'll do is I will. This video will be posted on my YouTube. I may just edit like some of the parts, like at the very beginning, or whatever, some of the mistakes, or where we're talking and getting. But this video will be posted, and I will in my newsletter blog, my Substack blog. I will.
Shall we formally end this if we're out of time?
Yes, I'll just add this, that in the Substack blog, I'll add links, which I'll. When I repost this, which will be in the next couple days. I'll add the link to Ginat and anything else we mentioned.
Okay, that's great. Yeah.
Yeah. So what we do have is this short video that I made.
Okay. Yes.
Some photographs that we'll show
Okay.
of you, and we'll put it on.
We'll end with that.
Yes, we'll end with that, and say thank you to everybody.
Yeah. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks for participating, and we will address your questions in another time. We promise to do that.
Okay. Much love to everyone.
We're just waiting to get this.